Now, to this most unholy union that took place this weekend. And this will be a recurring feature on The Nerve, the unholy celebrity union, because this thing to me, it feels like Rosemary's Baby and its darkness and its cynicism. But everyone from their celebrity friends, their presidential friends, their power player friends, their billionaire friends, and then the mainstream media, people and their ilk, they're all treating this like it's the greatest freaking love story, since Antony and Cleopatra. For your submission, troublemakers, I give you the bride, a 48-year-old perpetual handbag carrier for one Hillary Clinton. The closeness of their relationship, something akin to that other great platonic love story for the ages, Oprah and Gail. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Now, per a New York Times report dated October 29th, 2016. Now, this is there's a great backstory you wouldn't believe. I swear, if like somebody wrote this as a screenplay, they would be given notes to take half of it out because no one would believe it. Okay. So the bride is Huma Abedin, whose then husband was a former congressman who was then running for mayor of New York. I mean, New York City gets the leaders it deserves. What can I say? His name was Anthony Weiner. Now, he actually preferred to go by, again, a name for the ages, Carlos Danger. And we will get to that in a minute. Don't worry. So Anthony Weiner, and if I am somewhat of a believer in nominative determinism, that theory that like your name, your first name, your surname, both can determine what you become later in life, right? Like it's like a guy named Storm Fields, who we have here in New York on local news, becomes a weatherman, like it's that kind of a thing. So Wiener, like a fixation with the peanut, you know what I mean? So he got caught up in a sex scandal while running for mayor of New York. And this was not just any sex scandal, okay? This was a unique and uniquely disgusting sex scandal. Okay, now this thing blew up. This again, 2016, Hillary's running for president against Donald Trump. And all the reporting is like, well, she's going to win, right? So she's going to win. And a lot of her top aides were telling her, you got to ditch Uma. Like this scandal, again, it's not just a Bill Clinton kind of sex scandal. It's not an intern in the Oval on her knees. This is, we are sexting with an erection, barely wrapped in like tidy whities, while their 4-year-old son is sleeping next to him. Like he took a picture of that and he sent it to one of his online sex partners. I mean, this was really, 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 okay. You get it. You get it. So, and by the way, the New York Post, I was working there at the time, ran 22 front pages of Anthony Weiner. And sometimes Uma would be on the cover and sometimes she wouldn't be. But this whole sordid, tawdry, sexting a minor is a crime. Okay. It's a crime. And he went to prison. But so like that was 22 front pages, which at the time, every day it was going to be the wood. That's what they call it in the trade. The front page is the wood. It was like again. And the only other sex scandal to rival this, and again, to shock editors at a New York City tabloid, let alone the New York Post, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. But we were all constantly shocked because Tiger Woods, I think he set an in-house record. He got either like 9 or 12 consecutive days of front pages. I mean, these mistresses were falling out of trees. One would show up, the other would say, "Wait a minute, me too. I'm over here. Like, can I have my moment? Please, may I have my moment?" And there was one who came forward. I believe she came forward with like Gloria Allred, who's always sort of out there, like, got a guy to sue, got a guy to sue. I can do it. You got a high profile man. Anyway, this woman was named Mindy Lawton, and she was a waitress at a diner. And I pulled this up for you from a contemporaneous Fox Sports report. Mindy, quote, this is graphic. So I'm just warning you. I'm teasing you and I'm warning you. Okay. Said, quote, she and Woods had sex at his family's home in Florida and in his Escalade in a church parking lot. tossing her tampon out the window in a church parking lot. So, here we are. Here we are. It's our real talk about fake people, right? So back to Uma and Hillary. Per the New York Times, quote, the two women's closeness has both intimidated those in the Clinton circle of status conscious advisors and caused envy. Ellipses emails released by the State Department captured the closeness of their relationship. A jet-lagged Mrs. Clinton once emailed Ms. Abedin at 12:21 a.m. to take her up on an offer to come over to Mrs. Clinton's house for a chat. And I quote from the email written by allegedly Hillary Clinton, "Just knock on the door to the bedroom if it's closed," she wrote. So Hillary was in attendance at this wedding, this most unholy union. But this matters, and I pulled it for a reason, because again, it was a foregone conclusion that Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump in 2016, and that she would be bringing Uma with her to the White House in a senior capacity. A woman who at this point in our timeline is married to a man who is sexting pictures of his erection with their 4-year-old son sleeping at his side, who first discovered along with the world that he was a lying, cheating, sexting pervert, and she was pregnant with their child when this story broke. And what did she decide to do? She stays with him. So what we're looking at now is one of those legendary New York Post covers. This is of Anthony and Uma at a presser, a hastily called presser, that it was yet another crisis of Anthony's own making. I mean, a shrink would have a field day. Does this guy want to be successful or not? Because he can't keep it in his pants and he can't stay off his phone texting and sexting people. There's Uma at his side looking down, looking humiliated. Again, nominative determinism. Uma, humiliation. I don't know. Is this her kink? I truly began to wonder at that point because I was columning on it and I couldn't figure out why on earth this woman would be sticking with this guy. I mean, look at him. It's not, I don't mean to be like, superficial, but the guy did not have power. He did not have looks. He did not have money. He had nothing. Like, why is she sticking with him? And this guy is sick. He is sicker than the average politician looking to run New York City. Okay. He was sexed by this time. And there's an amazing documentary called Weiner that was following him with cameras this entire time. And it is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. Doesn't matter the genre, whether it's politics or rock and roll, whatever. Watch Weiner. I've seen it like 10 times. It is true entertainment. So he's sexting with this young woman who was going by the name, it's a theme, Sydney Leathers. Okay. And he's sexting her under his sex pest bad boy pseudonym, Carlos Danger. Okay. You couldn't script this any better. Now, before we go a little bit further into this, I want to just acknowledge that, yes, we have been covering abusive relationships. This is definitely vis-a-vis the Diddy scandal and the Bill Maher stuff. And we have covered and we will continue to talk about how hard it is for women to leave. And I do think that the kind of lying and cheating that Anthony Weiner was doing counts as abuse. I think Uma was in a psychologically, emotionally abusive relationship. And, if he was having sex with any of these women outside their marriage, he was also putting her at risk, her personal health at risk. Okay. But I'm going to qualify it with this. Huma Abedin is a woman in super high level politics. Okay. Her boss, everybody thought she had a glide path to the White House. Okay. So she's seen a lot. She knows a lot. She knows how this works. These people have access to the best crisis managers on the planet. So none of this ever made sense to me. And, you look at this press conference, which is mortifying. I mean, look at the optics. Again, you have people whose job it is to make stagecraft look presidential. She's standing with him, looking down, feet apart, staring at what is like industrial grade carpeting, I guarantee you, in front of beige cabinets. I mean, this is depressing. This is degrading, and she spoke at this presser. Okay. She spoke in his defense and she said, she used that hoary political line that doesn't really work anymore. She said it's only between them. It's our marriage and I forgive him. And if I forgive him, you should forgive him. And it doesn't matter. And that's not so, honey. It's not So, because as I just said, we later learned he was sexting with a minor. Okay. And if you're going to testify as to his integrity and say that you know it all, then you are on the hook for all the other shit he's doing that you're going to then claim you didn't know anything about, because you can't have it both ways. Here's what she said at the press conference in July 2013. And I quote, "We discussed all of this before Anthony decided to run for mayor. By that point, she had sat with him for the political and marital redemption stories. People Magazine cover story, New York Magazine, lengthy feature, New York Times Magazine, I believe that was a cover story. And all three, it was party line. And all three, by the way, outlets were like, yeah, this tracks. This seems to be right. Okay. They wrote it out. They stuck together. Isn't that what marriage is about? For better or for worse. They were a better couple for it. Anthony was a better leader for it, a better leader. And this was all behind them. Anthony was a reformed man, reformed. So she is a liar. She is a liar who is in it for the money and the fame and the power. She is in it for lunches with Anna Wintour, who's a terrible person, and bedtime stories with Hillary. You know, before that press conference, people generally felt sympathy for Huma Abedin. And after that, no, it was over. Now, in the aftermath of that, and it took her forever to divorce Anthony Weiner. She was sticking it out. Again, I have no idea why. Then she gets a big fat book deal. And she puts out this book called Both/End. And, you know, I guarantee you, she's in Clinton world, right? So she's kind of slimy. I guarantee you when she signed this book deal, the publishers were like, it's about your marriage, right? It's about your marriage and the fallout and how and your redemption arc. And no, it wasn't. It was about a lot of boring meetings and like trips she took with Hillary, and how when she first met Hillary, she thought she was the most tiny, beautiful thing she'd ever seen, if I'm recalling correctly, which I think I am, because I did read the whole book. It was a slog. And you know, the other thing I'm going to say about Huma Abedin, she's been Hillary Clinton's handbag carrier since she was 19 years old. She's 48 today. If Huma Abedin was as smart and savvy and sophisticated as the media continually tells us, as all those fawning Vogue profiles continually tell us, she would have risen up the ranks to become a senior advisor or something of real import, of real consequence. What is she doing to this day? She's still Hillary's body woman. Okay, so she's not bright. And her book was boring. And the one thing that she did reveal, because you do have to give something up when they're paying you, I'm guessing she got a couple of mil at least for this book deal. She revealed that she was a virgin until she was 32. And guess who took her virginity? Anthony Weiner. I mean, these are not winners over here, okay? So let's look at the hard launch of Uma's engagement to one Alex Soros, the 39-year-old perpetual bachelor son of billionaire Democratic donor, George Soros, who, per reports, may be secretly funding a lot of these nationwide riots in LA and other major metropolitan cities, okay? Look at these pictures. Now, if you're listening, I'm going to narrate for you. This is Huma and her fiance seated, like they look like they're miles apart in a glass walled apartment. Then we're seeing them at like the White House, and her body language is very strange. Like she's torqued like away from him, like get away from me. And then we're looking at this other one of the like they're side by side, their heads, and it's like, I mean, can you feel the heat coming off of these images? Can you feel the sexual electricity? The idea that they could not keep their hands off of each other. How lucky they are they found each other, and they'll be I mean, come on, just stop. And I can't believe these publications are publishing these images without so much as a wink and a nod. Okay, these two look like they're launching an app. And not just any app like Hoda, like a Joy 101 app. It looks like they're launching like a serious app, or like they're announcing like a business merger or some sort of philanthropic endeavor. They look utterly joyless and dead-eyed, okay? Both of them have dead eyes, and you can see why. Now, per Vogue, Huma is an Anna pet. And I've always wondered why Anna has such affection for or interest in mentoring this woman. You know, Huma Abedin to me seems like a very dull, unintelligent, uninteresting, humorless person. So what is it? Access to Hillary? I guess that must be it, right? I mean, but the other thing too, her other Anna's other great pet is Blake Lively, and again, who you run with is a reflection of who you are. So I think, Anna's a terrible person. And by the way, one of her former assistants, her name is Lauren Santo Domingo. She was like an Upper East Side it girl who went on to marry like a billionaire heir, an heir to like $1 billion, like it's like a South American sugar fortune. And she kind of is like a Carolyn Bessette Kennedy type. She recently did an interview, and you can go find it on social media. And she said that like The Devil Wears Prada is basically a documentary, and that Anna's that awful. And she said it in a way that will like still get her entree into certain rooms and parties and what have you, but just noted, okay? So yeah, so Vogue covers Uma like Uma is like the second coming of Elizabeth Taylor, okay? Now, she and Uma herself, I got to give her some credit. Okay, maybe she's not lacking talent. She certainly has a way with like older, powerful women who are very status conscious and will never change their hair or exit gracefully. So per Vogue, Uma and this scorching hot Alex Soros, he looks like Jack Antonoff, and that's no slight against Jack Antonoff. He's got a look, but like this guy looks like how there's this phenomenon. Andy Garcia is one, the actor Andy Garcia, where in utero twins, their twin siblings are gestating, but then one twin dies in utero or doesn't form fully, and the other twin subsumes that twin, or the live birth. And this was in Andy Garcia's case. He was born with like a huge thing on his neck, like it looked like a big circular spherical thing, and it was the dead twin that never like gestated fully. Like that, Alex Soros is Jack Antonoff's malformed, ungestated twin. Okay. So Alex and Uma met per Vogue, quote, at a mutual friend's birthday party where they quickly discovered their mutual interests in politics and public service. You don't say. Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's dead limb that's been following her around for decades, and Alex Soros, the useless billionaire son of George Soros, discovered that they had an interest in philanthropy, billionaire son, and politics, Hillary's pet animal. Okay, whatever. And I mean pet animal, like, like a pet rabbit, just something transportable, and like quiet. Okay, so anyway, here are the details from this star-studded wedding in East Hampton over the weekend. And Jimmy Fallon was there. I have no idea why Jimmy Fallon was there. Now, the New York Times covered this. And by the way, their comments are off. The comment section is turned off. And that tells you something when the Times editors think that the self-selecting, ultra-progressive readership that they have cultivated would find even this ridiculous. Like this beyond the pale. Are we really going to pretend? Are we really going to pretend that this is a great love story? Okay. Now, the guest list included Hillary and her husband, Bill Clinton, Kamala, that other great winner, and her husband, that other great feminist male who smacked around a girlfriend outside of Cannes one year, Doug Emhoff, Senator Senator Chuck Schumer, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries. Nancy Pelosi was there. Nikki Hilton was there. Well, and and foreign dignitaries like, oh my, like the Prime Minister of Albania. Can you name the Prime Minister of Albania? I will not provide the name. I picture the Prime Minister of Albania as looking like that 30 Rock episode where Pee Wee Herman was the guest of honor at some gala that Liz Lemon went to with Jack Donaghy. And he was so inbred that he had like tiny hands, like tinier than Bill Maher, like this. That's what I picture. Okay. The musical performance was by Boys to Men. That is au courant, right? It's cool. It's happening. It's now. It's what's hip. I mean, was Chris Cross not available? Like, was a call placed to Pete Rock and CL Smooth? Were they otherwise engaged? Diggable Planets, can we get somebody, anybody here? Okay, so these festivities happened to coincide with an exceptionally chaotic weekend. I'm reading from the New York Times again. At home and abroad, protesters gathered. This is what's going on. Okay. Protesters gathered across the country to oppose President Trump, even as he held, I'm reading from the Times, an unusual military parade in Washington. A Minnesota lawmaker was assassinated. I believe his wife was also assassinated. How is that? What is this reporting? Okay. And then there's attacks between Israel and Iran. You know, the Middle East is on fire. Okay. So this is all bullshit. This is all bullshit. All of these people who are at this wedding are the virtue signalers. They're waging war for the climate, allegedly. They're flying into East Hampton or helicoptering in and jamming up. There's a 2-lane highway that leads into and out of the Hamptons, and all of those towns are along that one highway. Okay. You get caught in traffic on that thing. You're on this 2-lane highway that without traffic takes 30 minutes and with it can take up to 4 hours. So these assholes are out here in their monster SUVs and dining on Wagyu beef and sipping custom-made top-shelf cocktails while America burns. And those are the people out in the street who think that the people at this wedding who are espousing this political rhetoric, those people don't believe it. They don't believe any of it. They love a divided America because it's politically expedient for them. So if you don't be a fool, don't fall for this. And by the way, out in the Hamptons every year, there is a huge party thrown by a scion of the Washington Post. It's a Weymouth, if I'm saying it right, or Weymouth. I think it's Weymouth because she's a cousin of Tina Weymouth of the Talking Heads. And every year, politicians, Dems and Republicans, and all the media, MSNBC people with Fox, like they're all out there and they all laugh at how the Americans and the world at large like buys into their like political rhetoric bullshit. You know, all they care about is money and power. That is it. So remember that the next time I'm slipping into George Clooney. He's like George as Edward R has possessed me, but I'm just saying, remember that the next time that Vogue or whatever media outlet tries to tell you that Huma Abedin is a star and not a fucked up middle-aged Muslim woman with a penchant for weird, sleazy Jewish guys. I'm not saying Alex Soros is sleazy, but something is off there, just my opinion. And entering into what is clearly a mutually beneficial marriage so that Democrats can maintain access to her new husband's father's deep pockets, okay?